The second dream is called Low Flights Out. Low Flights Out. America will become a prison. So I dreamt that people were trying to get out of the country because the flights were minimizing. American flights were drying up. There were fewer and fewer flights mandated to leave the country. Mandated as in fewer and fewer flights that were allowed to leave. And it was getting harder and harder to qualify to get a seat on one of these flights and leave the country. Now, a mandate is, I guess you could say, it's an order. It's an order, it's an executive command, or it is having the right to do or carry out an order or an executive command. Somebody could say, I have the mandate to make sure that this becomes one of the top schools in the country. It means that I'm working under an executive command. I'm working under an order. I have my orders, and I also have the requisite power that was given to me to carry out my orders. So something like that. So I dreamt that flights were becoming fewer because fewer and fewer airlines were mandated to fly in America. Basically, they were picking off the airlines from being to do international flights, being able to do international flights. They were disqualifying them. Maybe there will be a points system, and if the airline doesn't qualify for points system, then it becomes domestic only. I saw that Southwest, I don't know if they go outside, but they definitely became domestic only. Southwest could only fly in America, but American Airlines and Delta were allowed to still leave the country. So it was getting harder to leave the country because it was getting harder to find an airline that had a mandate to do international flights. And because demand was so high at that time, it was getting harder and harder to qualify. Did you hear that? I didn't say it was getting harder and harder to just book a flight. I said it was getting harder and harder to qualify to get a seat on one of the airlines that qualified to fly out of these borders. They were giving tickets by American Airlines. They were giving tickets whereby American Airlines was allowed to leave, and Delta also was allowed to collect flights. Southwest was still flying, but only within the country. The other two were allowed to do international. But as I saw, the flights were infrequent, and it had to be announced that one was leaving sometime in advance. Now, we're not talking about a 2-week, 3-week thing. No. What I was observing in my dream was basically something that I've only experienced one time when I wanted particular tickets to go and see a play on Broadway. Most plays on Broadway are open. A lot of them are running either all year or for 8 or 9 months or the year. Shortest run, maybe 6 months. There's plenty of time to get a ticket and go see it at your leisure. You can catch a matinee, an afternoon show, 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. You can go to a 7 p.m. show 7 days a week. The cast is working. Only one time I wanted to see a play, and there was such a high demand for that play because it was a limited run that I was shocked to find what I will now describe to you. The other 2 flights were allowed to do international, but I saw that the flights were infrequent and they had to be announced that one was leaving. When it was announced that a flight is leaving, it usually, believe it or not, was just a day or 2 before the flight is leaving the country. Now, unless you're already packed and ready and just waiting like a leopard to find out, is there one that's leaving? It's very difficult for even a single person to be able to move themselves into position to grab one of these flights. So imagine if it's a family, and you will hear how tough and competitive it was. When it was announced that a flight was leaving, then you could go to the website and wait for bookings to open up. When did you last go to Southwest? When did you last go to Delta and say that I want to fly to Thailand? I want to fly here. And then you have to wait for bookings to open up. You go to the website, you immediately click, I'm flying from Delaware to Thailand. These are my dates. And then it will just give you a full manifest of there's one leaving on Tuesday, there's one leaving on Wednesday, there's one leaving on Friday, there's one leaving. I mean, it can give you up to 2 weeks of flights, and it gives you the times. So then you pick, oh, I want a morning flight. Oh, no, I want to get there when it's still daylight. You work it out. You've never heard of waiting for bookings to open up, but that was exactly what was happening. The plane websites were always packed because everyone wanted to leave America. But wanting to leave America didn't mean that they would be able to. The flight bookings operated on a timer like they do with certain rush and very high demand tickets at the theater. You go to the website, and when you click the tickets that are in high demand, right? This was the experience I had. I went to the website, the Broadway thing, and then I just clicked and I thought, okay, I'm going to see the dates and everything. It was not like that. The website had been transformed into a kind of waiting room. When I clicked, it said, hello, you are in line. And there was a whole set of instructions. You are in the waiting room. The tickets are in high demand, and so you will have 7 minutes. They said 7 minutes you will have to get in, to look at the stage, decide where you want to sit relative to the stage, close, you can't see, middle, you need to be high because you can't see, whatever. You will have 7 minutes to look at that, select your seat, move to the next page, fill in all your details, and then move to the next page and pay. They told me you have 7 minutes to do that. It said that at the end of 7 minutes, whether you haven't finished, you're about to click pay, the 7 minutes it out, it says it would instantly kick you out of the waiting room. You would have to refresh the page and go back and then click to get into the waiting room. It happened to me the first time. I wasn't able to finish everything because 7 minutes goes faster than you think, especially when you're trying to look at the relative distance to the stage and also the price point and see where you want to sit. I wasn't able to do everything. I wasn't able to click before it ended. As a result, it kicked me out. When I refreshed the page thinking I'm going back into the waiting room, it told me the waiting room is full. The waiting room is currently full, meaning that maybe they have about 20 people on the site at a time, or maybe even 100 people on the site at a time working with their 7 minutes. So now I'm outside, I'm in the streets, I'm on the corner, okay? I'm wearing the gloves with no fingertips and holding a cup, waiting for someone in that waiting room to either fail at their 7 minutes or succeed, finish up, which means there's less seats. And then there's a line in front of me. And eventually, when the waiting room is empty enough, maybe 10 people are done, then if there's 9 people in front of me and I'm number 10, it'll push us into the waiting room. I have never experienced anything like that online. And that's exactly what the flights were like. Flight bookings operated on a timer like they do at the theater, like they do with certain tickets at the theater that are in high demand. You go to the website and you wait to get into some kind of online waiting room. When you enter the waiting room, you would find out on the airline's website what your place was in line. So you would wait to get put into the waiting room. And then when you get in the waiting room, it will tell you you are number 82. Hello. Number 82, but now you can't leave. You cannot leave the computer. Nobody left the computer. If it says you had a 1 hour waiting time, you know why you couldn't leave? Because if 7 people were working at the same time, or 18 people were working at the same time, and 16 of them managed to successfully complete flights, and all 16 of them go, your reservation is complete. All of them move out and the 1 hour waiting time could drop to 42 minutes. It could drop to 38 minutes. If you told yourself, oh, it's an hour, let me go run an errand, that was unwise. Nobody ever left the computer that I saw. This thing was like Jumanji survival that I saw in the dream of people trying to get out of America.